Welcome everyone to my 2021 June Blu-ray collection. Jack Drees here. And this is known as the sequel to the technical disaster piece known as the 2020 June Blu-ray collection. Now, for those of you who follow me on Scene Before, this is my 500th post ever on the blog. You can find it at flicknerd.com. That is FLICKNERD.com. Otherwise, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, subscribe now. Now, to the collection. And let's hope that we do not have to switch cameras. I got a few on standby. I got my Nikon charging. I got my old iPod Touch. I have my Samsung lying around somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Oh, it's right here. Okay, they're all in my bed. Well, let's not dilly-dally, so I don't waste any memory. Got about 13 gigabytes of waste. Let's do this. Starting with the left. I don't usually start with the left, but we're going to do it this time. This is one of my most recent purchases. I have yet to watch this. Over the Top. Winner Takes All, Loser Takes the Fall. One of my favorite movie YouTubers, The Flick Pick. That's one of his all-time favorite movies. I can't wait to watch it at some point. Mid-90s, directed by Jonah Hill. I've seen the trailer in the theater. I get to see the movie. Fanboys, a Star Wars-related documentary, I guess. Speaking of Star Wars, the prequel trilogy on Blu-ray. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith 4K. Solo Star Wars Story, Best Buy Steelbook. Probably one of the most average Star Wars movies ever made. Rogue One, a Star Wars Story. By the way, this is available in 3D. Star Wars A New Hope. Empire Strikes Back. Return to Jedi. Star Wars The Force Awakens. This was my first ever Steelbook pickup. Star Wars The Last Jedi. This is a 4K Steelbook from Best Buy. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. This cover art's amazing. Sadly, the movie's not as good. I mean, seriously. Look at Kylo Ren and tell me that's not kick-ass. That's a girl out of my league. Kind of good. Lone Survivor. This was the first 4K I ever picked up. Somehow I've yet to watch it. Patriots Day, starring Mark Wahlberg. Also directed by Peter Berg, just like the Lone Survivor was. Let's set this aside. Move on to the next pile. Let's go over here. Date Night. I just watched this for the first time recently. It's not a bad romantic comedy kind of movie. It's also one of Gal Gadot's earlier roles. I can't talk today. Safe House. Hitman's Bodyguard. The sequel's coming out soon. Can't wait to see that. Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi. Green Lantern. This also includes the extended cut. Live by Night, directed by Ben Affleck. It's also starring Ben Affleck. $1 Million Baby. We're getting to my Clint Eastwood stuff. Trouble with the Curve. Okay, I guess we're diverting from Clint Eastwood a little bit. Ready or Not. This is my favorite movie of 2019, and I absolutely recommend you watch this. Silver Linings Playbook. Another movie I saw for the first time recently. This is really good. My mother loves this movie, and for Mother's Day, I figured I'd watch it with her under her request. This is a good movie, and I say this as someone who wasn't really turned on by American Hustle and Joy. I mean, they were good, just not great. Operation Finale. I saw it once. I barely remember it, although I know Paul Dameron. Oscar Isaac was in it. Blades of Glory. Space Jam. The sequel comes out next month. I'm going to watch this in preparation for it at some point. Ava. This is a pretty good movie. Also shot near me in Boston. I gotta love Jessica Chastain. Cars 3. We're moving on to Pixar stuff. Coco. I was a little disappointed in Coco, but it's nice looking. Toy Story 3. This is still in the wrap. I got this at Newbury Comics in Providence, Rhode Island. Toy Story 2. I think that's the funniest of the Toy Story movies, if you ask me. And I do have Toy Story 1, but we'll get to it later. Moving on to the first Criterion of the pile. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. we're going to put this over here. The Hate You Give. Got this recently at FYE. Speaking of FYE, I also got this there. A Simple Favor, directed by Paul Feig. I need to say his last name. Hercules, starring The Rock. Pretty good movie. I mean, it's not anything special, but it's pretty good. It's definitely better than The Legend of Hercules, which I still have for some reason. We'll get to that. Which one's Absolute Power? That's what this is. Absolute Power. Speaking of Clint Eastwood. Night at the Museum 3, Secret of the Tomb. It's probably the worst of the Night at the Museum movies. Night at the Museum, the original. I have Battle of the Smithsonian, but it's not on Blu-ray. It's on DVD, so we're not going to talk about it. Lawrence of Arabia. 2-film collection. Includes The Conjuring and Conjuring 2. I've seen the first one. I've yet to see the second. Annabelle. Spin-off of The Conjuring. And speaking of Annabelle, here's Annabelle Creation. There's also Annabelle Comes Home. I know that's out, but I've yet to see that, or I have yet to see the other two anyway, so it'd be irrelevant to me to see the other one. The Curse of La Llorona, also in the Conjuring universe. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, starring Marilyn Monroe. Get Out. Speaking of Jordan Peele, Us. This is a pretty good movie, if you ask me. I watched it once in the theater, once on 4K Blu-ray. Becky. This is an interesting film. This has Kevin James in it, and it's a weird turn from him, because one is a smaller film, and I usually don't associate Kevin James with that caliber of films. I'm not saying this is beneath him, but I don't know. When I think of Kevin James, I either think of funny on King of Queens or big budget comedies like Paul Blart or Here Comes the Boom. Sorry. Oh, yeah, this one right here. Nightmare Before Christmas. This is still in the wrap. I'm waiting to watch this either on Halloween or Christmas. We'll find out. Moving on. Call of the Wild. This was pretty boring, if you ask me. I did read the book when I was in 8th grade. It was recently adapted by 20th Century. Promising Young Woman. This is a dang good flick. Check it out if you have not. Very subversive. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. This comes with 2 movies. Both are really good. Speaking of really good, Bill and Ted Face the Music. By the way, this is being recorded on June 9th, coincidentally, which is Bill and Ted Day. Happy Bill and Ted Day, even though it's not going to matter when this video is uploaded. Alright, moving on, we have Arkansas, Red Heat, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Dark Tower, Dumb and Dumber and The Mask combo, Young Guns, The Darkest Minds, on 4K, The Hunt. This was terrible. Absolutely terrible. This was one of the last movies to come out before movie theaters shut down. I did not see it in the theater because I didn't have time for it. But I watched it at home, and oh my god, I hated it. It basically tries to be Ready or Not, but in the worst possible way. That's the best way I can put this. Although I imagine they were filmed almost at the same time, so I think it's more or less a coincidence. The Big Short, The Rhythm Section, another lackluster film. Probably going to sell it after I do this video. Vivarium. This film is an interesting concept, but the execution, unfortunately, is not as good as what it promises. Although I do like Jesse Eisenberg, so that's always a win. The Intern. This is a surprising little movie. I remember I watched this at Disney World when I went on vacation there in 2018. It was on TBS or something. But I did not sit down and watch it with my eyes paying attention to it until recently. I did this for a project in school, and it's a really good film. I recommend it if you've not seen it. Also, you gotta love Robert De Niro and Anna Kendrick. They're both good actors. Gretel and Hansel. Boring. Let's move on. Let's go over here. American Graffiti, directed by George Lucas before he did Star Wars. Up next, we have Super 8, directed by J.J. Abrams. Yeah. Directed by J.J. Abrams. films. Welcome to the Punch. The Great Wall, starring Matt Damon, aka Jimmy Kimmel's least favorite person in the world. The Man with the Iron Fists. Green Zone. I think I was supposed to have The Great Wall in my Matt Damon collection, but I had something blocking it. The Monuments Men, speaking of Matt Damon. Elysium, also speaking of Matt Damon. The Hurricane Heist. I don't know why I keep this movie. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but for some reason I kind of want to watch it again just to laugh my ass off. Who knows? Maybe I'll sell and just keep the digital copy or something if I can redeem it. Kingsman: The Secret Service. Now this is a badass film. If you want Bond done on steroids, this is a good film. Machete, starring Danny Trejo. Limitless, Broken City, The Gambler, also starring Mark Wahlberg. Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. I also have the first one, but it's on DVD. Drive, starring Ryan Gosling. Hereditary, which, by the way, Toni Collette in this movie is fire. Watch it if you have not. Under the Skin. This was a movie that I wanted to really like it. Plus, it has Scarlett Johansson in it. Whatever. The Disaster Artist. Probably my favorite of the A24 films to have come out so far. This is based on the making of The Room, the famous disasterpiece, and this was really well done. It's directed by James Franco, also starring his brother. Very well done. James Franco does a great Tommy Wiseau. I hit her! Room, speaking of A24. Actually, you know what? This is my favorite A24 film. Now I think about it. This is just slightly edges out Room. I don't know. This slightly edges out The Disaster Artist. Just by a little bit. Selma, starring... I don't want to get his name wrong. Yeah, David Oyelowo as Martin Luther King. There we go. The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, Hell or High Water, 3:10 to Yuma, Unforgiven, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, The Shape of Water, really good film. Fight Club, although we should not be talking about it. Thelma and Louise, really well done film, directed by Ridley Scott. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Black Swan, really good film starring Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis. Birdman, one of those films that you almost wonder how it even got made. It's kind of like 1917 before 1917, except it's actually better. Although, less war. Or acting stuff. Sorry to Bother You. It's a good movie. It was a good one-time watch, I guess. Hunter Killer. The Debt, starring Jessica Chastain. And Captain Phillips. That's it for that pile. Let's move on to the next one. Widows. I just purchased this fairly recently. You can watch it. Spring Breakers. This is one of the first A24 films to have ever come out. Chef. Directed by Jon Favreau. Long Day's Journey into Night. I heard this was awesome in 3D. Unfortunately, I never saw it in the theater, so we'll probably have to sell it for the home experience at some point. I hope to get a 3D TV to watch it in the full capacity. We'll have to see. Silence, directed by Martin Scorsese. Nija. I don't think that's how you say it. Marriage Story. Yes, this is available on Blu-ray. You can get it in the Criterion form. Really good movie. Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Stupid. Oh, look at that. It's still... Alright, good. I didn't break it. Anyway, now there's my thoughts on that movie. Mortal Kombat. It's a better movie than Mortal Kombat Annihilation. There we go. Ralph Breaks the Internet. The Lion King, the animated one from 1994. Reservoir Dogs, starring my Tarantino pile. Pulp Fiction, signed by Phil Lamar, who's in this movie. Jackie Brown, probably his least talked about film. I've yet to see it. Kill Bill 1 and 2. Inglourious Bastards. Django Unchained. The Hateful Eight, probably my least favorite Tarantino film so far. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, my favorite Tarantino film aside from Pulp Fiction. Very well done film. Speaking of which, I'll show this off right now. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I also have this copy right here. It's a collector's edition. It comes with a record, posters, all sorts of cool stuff. It even comes with a Mad magazine. Put that aside. 40 Days and 40 Nights. I saw that recently. Well, by recently, I mean months ago. Okay, watch, I guess. Color Out of Space. Kind of a trippy movie, starring Nicolas Cage. Okay, next we move on to Whiplash. Grand Piano, signed by Elijah Wood himself. He signed this at Rhode Island Comic Con for me. Ray, starring Jamie Foxx, with probably his best performance to date. He won an Academy Award for it, I believe. The Simpsons movie. This is actually a pretty good movie, I will admit. I enjoyed the Simpsons series. I also enjoyed the movie, so... Woohoo! Overlord. No Country for Old Men. Titanic. Yeah, this does not include the 3D version. It's just Blu-ray and DVD. Wild. Nightcrawler. Steady Hands. Atomic Blonde. Now this is a good movie. It's almost like a John Wickish type of film, but at the same time, it's its own thing. I really like it. I think it's actually better than John Wick, if you ask me. Speaking of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. My favorite of the John Wick films. John Wick 2. My second favorite of the John Wick films. And yeah, I think the original one's the worst, which doesn't say much. John Wick. It's actually a pretty good movie. So there is that. Nerve. I was surprised by this film. I did not think I would like this, but I did get it for Christmas one year, and I did watch it, I think, the next day. So I was pleasantly surprised. This is very well done. It stars Emma Roberts and Dave Franco. I recommend it. Jumper. Mediocre movie starring Hayden Christensen. Directed by Doug Liman, who's kind of a hit or miss director for me. I like some stuff he does. I dislike others. 10 Cloverfield Lane. Exposed, starring Ana de Armas. I will say Ana de Armas. That's how I used to pronounce it, but then I started pronouncing it the other way. Also has Keanu Reeves in it. I forgot about that. Gangster Squad. I watched it once. It's forgettable. It was alright when it was on screen. I mean, it's good. It's fun to look at, but other than that, there's not much else. Nightmare on Elm Street. This is the remake. Silence of the Lambs. I know they're doing that Clarice series now on CBS. I don't know how that is. If you're watching Clarice, how is it? X-Men. X2, X-Men United. Deadpool. This is the Christmas style slipcover. And for those of you who have not seen my other Blu-ray collection videos, this comes with a little Christmas card. I'm not going to show the inside because there could be kids watching, but nice little fun Easter egg, but related to Christmas, really. Even comes with a to and from thing on the front of the slipcover. It's nice. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This was Disney's first 4K Blu-ray ever. Guardians of the Galaxy 1. This is the 3D edition, along with the regular Blu-ray and stuff like that. Iron Man 2. Avengers Age of Ultron. Avengers 1. I had the DVD for years. I just recently upgraded to the 4K edition. I found this used in Blu-ray Comics for $11.99. Pretty good price. Captain America the First Avenger. Captain America the Winter Soldier. Captain America Civil War. Probably my favorite of the Captain America films. We're also getting a Captain America 4, but not with Chris Evans for reasons. Doctor Strange. Thor. I think it's one of the most underrated films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thor: The Dark World, probably my least favorite MCU film, if you ask me. Thor: Ragnarok. I wanted to I like this film. I wanted to love it, but I didn't. I wish I loved it, because a lot of other people did. Although I do like Taika Waititi. I think he's got a good personality. Ant-Man and the Wasp. This underwhelmed me, especially after Infinity War. The weird thing about Infinity War is, when I saw that movie and that ended, I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to whatever Marvel has next now. And it was this. The movie was fun, to say the least. The end credit scene was good, but that doesn't really make for a great movie. But that's okay, because we have Ant-Man 1, which is super duper 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 amazing. I love this movie. Maybe this is the most underrated film in the MCU. I'm not sure. Instead of Thor. Black Panther. It's a 4K edition. Incredible Hulk with a green case. Look at this. Excuse me. Spider-Man Homecoming, 4K edition. V for Vendetta. Probably my favorite DC movie yet, regardless of whether it's in the cinematic universe or not. Daniel Craig James Bond collection. This comes in both 4K and Blu-ray, as you can see right here. Come on. Tron Legacy. Tron, the original classic, as it says on the case, or Tron, whatever you want to call it. Live Free or Die Hard. It's the only Die Hard movie I own. It's good. Not as good as the original from what I remember. The Crow. And now I'll move on to another section. Let me just move this over here. Alright. Up next, we have this pile. Rocky Horror Picture Show. 35th Anniversary Edition. The Siege. Moon. Dances with Wolves. The Sixth Sense, started by M. Night Shyamalan. Pompeii. It's the 3D edition. Backdraft. 2010, the year we made contact. And speaking of, we got 2001: A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick. We're moving on to the Stanley Kubrick part of the collection. We also got the 4K edition of 2001: A Space Odyssey. I got this at Barnes & Noble for like $40-something. It was overpriced, but I wanted it so bad. The Shining. A Clockwork Orange. Full Metal Jacket. Eyes Wide Shut. I just picked this up recently. Speaking of, we're moving on to the Tom Cruise portion of the collection. War of the Worlds, 4K. Jack Reacher. Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, which does not have the DVD, but it's got the Blu-ray, so that's really what I care about. That close right? Good. Minority Report. It's alright. It's a good film. All the Right Moves. Probably my least favorite of the Tom Cruise movies I've seen. I don't know. I just didn't like his character. The Last Samurai. Not my favorite Tom Cruise movie, but probably his best performance to date. Probably the most captivating, if you ask me. Risky Business. This is probably my favorite Tom Cruise movie. Because it's just simple. And it kind of reminds me of myself a little bit. I just want to hang out. Like, right now, I'm alone in this house. The other people who live with me are elsewhere. I don't know. It's just like doing things and hanging out by myself. It just reminds me of pure solitude. That's just what it reminds me of. It's probably my favorite of the Tom Cruise movies that I've seen. Except for one, but we might get to that. I have a back and forth debate. Speaking of Tom Cruise, we got a triple movie collection. The Firm, Days of Thunder, and Collateral. I've seen two of these. I've seen The Firm, which was meh. I've seen Days of Thunder, which was really good. I also like Hans Zimmer's score in it. A Few Good Men. I've yet to see this one. I have a lot of Tom Cruise movies, if you can't tell already. It's probably one of the more prominent features of the collection. Oblivion in 4K. American Made, directed by Doug Liman. Good movie. Fantasy Island. This was terrible. I didn't watch the original series, but I didn't have to watch the original series to know how bad this was in comparison to that. Not a good movie. I just remember from the movie Fantasy
Language
Island. That was the guy who said Fantasy
Language
Island. Wow, I love you, but I also hate you at the same time. And speaking of movies that I don't particularly like, Charlie's Angels, the 2019 edition. Now, I'm very disappointed that I didn't like this because it's directed by Elizabeth Banks, who I think is a phenomenal actress. She's one of the best working today. Not the best director, though. Although I love her as a host on Press Your Luck, so what can I say? I'm rooting for her. If she directs another movie, I will look forward to it. She's doing that Cocaine Bear movie that has been talked about at some point. I'm curious. It sounds like a great concept. All Eyes on Me, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Natural, Soul Surfer, Roma, Criterion, also available on Netflix. Bottle Rocket, directed by Wes Anderson. I believe this is his first film. Fantastic Mr. Fox, also directed by Wes Anderson. Grand Budapest Hotel, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. This is a pretty good movie. Tom Hanks is great in it. Bad Times at El Royale. The Matrix trilogy. I had this for a couple years, but I've yet to open it. Not because I don't like these movies. I'm just waiting for the right time to watch them. In fact, I'm going to be reviewing them this December because Matrix 4 comes out then. Judy. It's about Judy Garland, starring Renee Zellweger. She won an Academy Award for it. Superman the Movie. Kick-Ass. Rampage, starring The Rock. The Old Man and the Gun. This is a good movie. Supposedly Robert Redford's last film, I suppose. The Adjustment Bureau, starring Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. Next, we have the 4K edition of Robin Hood, starring Russell Crowe and Cate Blanchett. 1917. This is a marvelous film. Probably one of the better war films we've gotten in recent years. I was hypnotized. I saw this early during a press screening in Boston. I was blown away. If you have not seen this movie, you really should check it out. The Quarry. I watched this. It was boring. I can't even remember a single thing about it. Speaking of boring, Death of Me. Wow, I can't wait to never talk about that movie again. The King of Staten Island. Now, this was a good film. It came out in the middle of COVID, so I did not watch it immediately, but I got the Blu-ray, and I was pleasantly delighted with it, so I recommend it if you have not seen it. Antebellum, not a good movie if you ask me, unfortunately. Little Monsters, starring Howie Mandel, Fred Savage. Inherent Vice, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. Speaking of PTA, The Master. Phantom Thread. Why Him? Act of Valor. Focus. Charlie St. Cloud. The Great Gatsby. Parasite, one of the best films to have come out in recent years. Bong Joon-ho is a genius. I still have yet to see his other films, and I feel very guilty. Snowpiercer, also directed by Bong Joon-ho. I know they came out with a TV series based on it on TNT. I've yet to watch it. Alright, moving on. Up next is one of my most prized film possessions. Lord of the Rings 4K. And this is not just any 4K collector's set of Lord of the Rings. I'm going to show you something inside it. First off, look at this. It's almost like a book. It's almost like the Bible they used to swear in Joe Biden as president. But looky here. Look at that. It even comes with the One Ring. One collector set to rule them all. We'll put that aside. By the way, it comes with the theatrical and extended editions. I've watched the Fellowship extended. I get to watch the other two. Ice Age Continental Drift. It's the second worst Ice Age movie. The American, The Boss, Chronicle, The Change Up, The Peanut Butter Falcon, Knives Out. This is a fun theater experience. I'm curious to see what Netflix will do with Knives Out, especially considering that they're not exactly keen on theatrical releases. They'll probably have to keep it theatrical because that's how the first one made a lot of money. Let's see what happens with the second one. Maggie, Battle of Los Angeles, Tammy, Turbo, for DreamWorks, Wild Hogs, Sands of Oblivion. Apparently this was a sci-fi movie, and by sci-fi movie I mean the Sci-Fi Channel. I got this from my grandparents just recently. I've got to watch it, but apparently it's got some good actors in it. Marina Baccarin, who I've met in person. She's wonderful. Adam Baldwin, Victor Webster, and Academy Award winner George Kennedy. I'm just reading this off the cover, and they're going to move on. Shaun the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. Edgar Wright directed all these films. The Farewell, wonderful film. I love how it ends. I'm not going to say anything. The Judge, starring Robert Downey Jr. I was about to say directed by him for some reason. Summerland. This came out of the blue last year for me, because theaters are opening back up, and I was desperate to go see a movie in a theater again. So I went to a local theater called the Lexington Venue in Lexington, Massachusetts, and this was one of the few films playing there. It is one of the most marvelous movies I've ever seen in my life. This was an enchanting story, and I was really surprised because the first 10, 20, maybe even 30 minutes, I thought it was going to be a piece of crap. By the end, wow, I was blown. One of the best character relationships I've seen on screen in recent years. I highly recommend it. I don't know where else you can find it aside from maybe on demand, but if you find it, watch it. Watch Summerland, please. The Way Back, starring Ben Affleck. I was about to say directed by him because I get confused sometimes and think he was more of a director than an actor these days. It's directed by Gavin O'Connor, by the way. Yep, Gavin O'Connor. Who also directed The Accountant. Let's go over here to La La Land. La La Land. Really well done musical. Loved the first shot in the movie. Treasure Planet. I just picked this up recently. Oz the Great and Powerful. I actually really like that movie. Well done in terms of 3D. It was awesome to see in the theater. Aladdin, the animated version from Disney. The Jungle Book, live action edition from Disney. The Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. I will be reviewing this along with the other Pirates of the Caribbean movies in July in preparation for Jungle Cruise, because that too is also based on a Disney theme park ride. Speaking of Pirates of the Caribbean, we have Dead Man's Chest, the sequel, the first sequel, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, and in the other two Blu-ray collection videos, I said I don't have Dead Man Tell No Tales, but guess what? I have it now on 4K. Don John, really well done movie that I think should be watched by every guy at least once. Every guy should watch that movie, whether you like it or not. The Longest Ride, Missing Link, it's from Laika. Also from Laika, Kubo and the Two Strings, well done animated film from 2016, which was a stellar year for animation between that, Finding Dory, and Zootopia. I didn't even mention Moana, which honestly I did not like, I'll be honest. Waterworld, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I got this for $6, which feels like a steal, especially considering it's a 4K movie. Capone, it's average. I'll probably never watch it again. Apocalypto, this was rare at some point. I don't think it's that rare anymore. Last time I checked. I'll have to double check the price on whatever site it's on right now. We'll see. I did get it at Best Buy. They were offering it online. Okay, moving on. Scary stories to tell in the dark. We're moving on to my steelbooks. Deadpool 2, signed by, I don't know if you can see this. No. Actually, let me get out of the slipcover. On top is Colossus. Stefan Kapkic, I think that's how you say his name. And down below, where is it? Marina Bakarin. That's the name. Told you I met her in person. Yeah, I got the signatures at Rhode Island Comic Con in 2018. Wreck-It Ralph. I like that steelbook cover. The Iron Giant. I believe this is an FYE exclusive. I could be wrong. Lawless. Boys in the Hood. Next, They Live. This is the Shout Factory, Scream Factory edition. I think they made 10,000 of these. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I just recently ordered the 4K edition of this movie from Target. I should be getting that in July. But this is an awesome movie, and if you have not seen it, I recommend it. I saw it twice in Dolby Cinema this year. It's awesome. A Quiet Place. They just came out with a sequel for this, and it's not as good as the first one, if you ask me. I really like the first one, though. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like the second one, but it's the typical thing. The sequel's not as good as the original. Hacksaw Ridge. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This was an FYE exclusive, even though I got it at Spin Street, which is basically an FYE spinoff that went out of business. It had at least 2 stores in the previous decade. Halloween 2. And speaking of Halloween, we have Halloween 1 from 1978. I also have the Halloween 2018 movie somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. We'll get to it. Stripes. Spider-Man Homecoming. Getting into my Marvel steelbooks and collector sets. Avengers Endgame. This is the Target exclusive. Speaking of Target exclusives, we also have Avengers Infinity War. This is my favorite of the MCU movies. Like, seriously, if you have not seen Infinity War, or Endgame for that matter, you might have to do some catching up in the Marvel timeline, but it is worth it. Just watch it at some point before you die. Captain Marvel. This is also the Target exclusive. I got this for about $10. It was on clearance or something. It's my second least Marvel. It's my second least favorite Marvel film, if you ask me. I love Brie Larson. I just don't think she was a good Captain Marvel. That's just me. I love her in Room, though. She deserved that Academy Award. Iron Man 3. This is the Best Buy exclusive steelbook. Iron Man 1. I had this on DVD. I did upgrade to the 4K steelbook in 2019. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Look at the back. It's all sky-like. Comes with a DVD. Life stuff in it, because the film's about Life magazine to a degree. Blu-ray. Back to the Future, the Blu-ray trilogy, the 25th anniversary edition. I upgraded to the 4K set, which we'll get to eventually. Charlie's Angels, the 2000 version, starring Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu. I like that better than the Elizabeth Banks edition, if you ask me. Psycho. I think they just came out with another steelbook for this at Best Buy. I could be wrong, though. Okay, moving on to the New Mutants. I saw this in the theater. I have not seen this on Blu-ray yet, but I'll probably be watching it at some point. It's alright. It was a good movie for the first time. Gran Torino. I got this at a CVS, apparently, for $5. Not a bad buy. And there's the Halloween 2018 edition. Yeah, directed by David Gordon Green, so it is the 2018 edition. Zombieland Double Tap, the sequel to Zombieland, which I always sometimes think is better than the original. I saw that early in the theater, and I think it was at the same show that Audience Reactions was. So if you ever see the YouTube channel Audience Reactions, they do a lot of live audience reactions to films in, I guess, the Boston area. I think I was at that show. You can probably hear me in the crowd, too. Field of Dreams, Hobbs and Shaw, Top Gun. This is the Metal Pack. Came up with a lot of editions for that movie. Terminator Dark Fate. Going back to Stanley Kubrick, Doctor Strangelove. The Hunt for Red October. Labyrinth, Jim Henson's Labyrinth. It's the 30th anniversary edition. It Follows. Sheppy. Moving on. Home Alone. I just rewatched this last Christmas, and I would contend that this is probably the greatest Christmas movie ever made. Not counting any of those other Christmas movies like Die Hard or Iron Man 3 or Shazam. If you want to talk about pure Christmas movies, Home Alone may just be the best one ever. If you ask me. Look what you did, you little jerk. Speaking of Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life. They just came out with the 4K steelbook for it. Jaws. We got Jaws. Best Buy exclusive 4K edition. Now for something much less exciting, the live-action Mulan. Wow, this sucked. And you know what? I have no interest in the live-action Disney stuff. In fact, I did not really grow up with Disney, so I could care less about it. But Mulan was actually a movie I was excited for. And you know why? Because it was different. It was not trying to go off of the original and do all the songs. It didn't have Mushu. It was going to be PG-13. It was going to have epic battles. It was going to be its own thing. And they bricked it. Oh my god, it was so bad. But hey, at least we have the animated Mulan, which is much better. I watched these kind of back-to-back. I don't know if I watched them directly back-to-back or not. Yeah, there is such a difference in quality between these two movies. One's crap, one's perfect. I'm not just saying that as a Disney fan. I'm just saying that as someone who watched both movies and happened to see one being better than the other. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, moving on. The Wizard of Oz. This is the 4K Best Buy exclusive steelbook. Although I think they put similar versions in stores like Walmart recently. Easy Rider. Spartacus. Directed by Stanley Kubrick. Back to the Future 4K trilogy. I have yet to watch these films on 4K, but I'm waiting for the perfect time for it. I love these films so much. I have watched them on Blu-ray a few times. I've watched them on Stars even before that. Numerous times. They're timeless, no pun intended. Sonic the Hedgehog. This is a surprisingly good film. Oh, I just realized I took something off. This also comes with the comic book. It's called The Adventures of Sonic and Donut Lord. I don't want to ruin it, but a little look inside if you want to take a look at it. I'm not going to read it. Just a little sneak preview. Also, you got Dr. Robotnik on the back. Look at that. Jim Carrey was easily the best part of this movie, if you ask me. Also, one fine looking steelbook. I'm just glad we got this version of Sonic as opposed to the one with the smaller eyes. Also like a rodent, if you ask me. The Wolf of Wall Street. Sell me this pen. Spider-Man. It's a limited edition collection. Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 from Sam Raimi. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite comic book movie of all time. I also love Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man 3, it's a special place in my heart because It was the first comic book movie I ever saw in the theater. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I rewatched it thousands of times to the point where I don't care. I really like it. This version also comes with an editor's cut, which I've yet to see. I think it's shorter than the regular version of the film. Onward, Pixar's Onward. This is arguably almost the worst Pixar movie. But I took a screenwriting class in sophomore year, and my professor said, even bad Pixar is better than most movies. And this movie stands true to that statement. It's not great, but it's really good. It's better than a lot of movies. Toy Story 4. Honestly, it's the worst Toy Story movie, but it's still really good. It's the Target exclusive, although I did get it at Blu-ray Comics for $15.99. Incredibles 2. It's a sequel to my favorite animated film of all time, and it is a worthy follow-up, if you ask me. This is the Target exclusive. I got this on Black Friday one year. You may have seen that video. Speaking of The Incredibles, we have The Incredibles! Best Buy Steelbook Edition. This comes with a 4K, by the way. Up next is Toy Story. The original on 4K. I really like this cover art. Look at that. Up next is, speaking of Pixar Steelbooks, Inside Out. I think this is a movie that gets better every time I watch it. I don't know. I just watched this with my grandparents this year. They really loved it. I mean, they agree. It's a really good movie. It's hard not to like that movie. Pete Docter's a genius. The Good Dinosaur. This is one of the few Pixar movies I've yet to see. I've yet to see this. I've yet to see Monsters University. I have not seen All Brave either, so we're still waiting on that. Finding Dory. This is the Target Steelbook Edition, although I did get it at FYE for $9.99. Ready Player One. This is the Target Edition with the lenticular cover, although it does come with the standard... oh wow, it's backwards. I didn't even realize that. It comes with the standard 4K case. Well, I do like this lenticular feature. I didn't realize I put that backwards. I just recently rewatched it last Easter, and it holds up. It's one of my favorite Spielberg films. It's one of my favorite Spielberg films, if you ask me. Desperado. Red Sparrow, starring Jennifer Lawrence. It's a pretty good movie. Mission Impossible Fallout. This is the other Tom Cruise film that I would argue is my favorite, aside from Risky Business. Up next is one of my most recent pickups, and this is probably the worst Target exclusive I've ever seen. Raya and the Last Dragon. And I'm not saying the movie's terrible. The movie is amazing. It's probably my favorite of 2021 so far. But let me show you this. I'm going to take the sticky thing off. Okay, I like the back. It's actually not bad. But, yeah, you get your stuff in here. But this just comes with, inside the fancy little cover thing, the actual 4K Blu-ray. So I just got this for $5 extra. It just feels really cheap. The movie is still really good. I just rewatched it the other night. It's fantastic. I just wish it were presented better. And that's just me. How to Train Your Dragon 2. It's probably my least favorite of the How to Train Your Dragon films, although it's still really good. V for Vendetta 4K edition. We saw the Blu-ray version earlier. This is the 4K Steelbook edition. I managed to get the last one at Best Buy a few months after it came out. It was probably the last one in the region that I could get, but somehow I got it. It was well worth a trip to New Hampshire. Evil Dead 2. Speaking of Evil Dead, we got Evil Dead 1. That last Steelbook was an FYE exclusive. This one, I'm not sure where if it comes from anywhere specifically. I got it used at a comic book store. Do the Right Thing. This is a Target exclusive. The Bridge on the River Kwai. Best Buy exclusive, although I did get it at FYE. Coming to America. It's had the sequel come out on Amazon recently. The Dark Knight 4K trilogy. You can see the movies in here. Up next is Airplane. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Speaking of The Dark Knight, we just saw, I also have the Blu-ray Dark Knight trilogy. This is the gift set. Probably going to get rid of this at some point. Maybe give it to my dad or something. He likes these movies too. Because I did get the 4K set. Although I do want to see how they play first. I think I want to see that first. Now we're going to move on to the rest of the pile, which is on the right side of me. So let's move on. We have Clerks, directed by Kevin Smith. Speaking of Clerks, we have Clerks 2. I just watched that for the first time recently. It's a pretty good movie. Also, we have, in the same thing, Zack and Miri. Or Zack and Miri Make a Porno, depending on how you phrase it. Caddyshack. Hey, everybody! We're all gonna get laid! Bulletproof. The Jerk. It's in the best in the 1970s slipcover, which, look inside, includes information about the 70s. But it comes with the regular case, as you can see right here. Up next is The Big Lebowski. This is for the Universal 100th Anniversary Edition. Over the line! Talladega Nights. Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues. Step Brothers. The Campaign. Hot Tub Time Machine. Horrible Bosses. Due Date. This is okay. It's not great, though. It's Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis playing the same character he plays in the Love Letter movies that he's done in recent years. It's alright. Not offensive. It's just not great. Game Night. This is one of my favorite comedies in recent years. This came out in 2018, which I will admit is probably one of my favorite years for comedy ever, because we had this, we had Tag, we had Blockers. There was a lot of good comedy in 2018. I'd even argue Avengers Infinity War to a degree as a comedy. It's probably the funniest MCU movie ever. Maybe aside from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not sure. Hall Pass. Another not so great movie that I still own for some reason. I'll probably get rid of it, maybe. Zombieland, the original. National Security. Starring Martin Lawrence and Steve Zahn. Drill Bit Taylor. Run, Fat Boy, Run. The Internship, which unfortunately does not come with the Blu-ray. This is the DVD cover. Where's the Blu-ray? We'll never know. Get in there. Zoolander, starring Ben Stiller. It's overrated. The Heat. I got this for... Did I get it for $5? It says $5. I don't know if I got it for that much, but I got it at a sale near a church. Dirty Grandpa. Here's my thoughts on that movie. It's terrible. There's like one good joke in that movie from Robert De Niro, which I forget what it is. Other than that, it is bonkersly horrible. It's stupid. I'm probably going to sell it at some point. Ghostbusters 2, 4K. I'm going to watch this at some point because Ghostbusters Afterlife is coming out, and I'm going to be reviewing this along with the first Ghostbusters right here, which is amazing, in preparation for the upcoming Ghostbusters Afterlife movie. I'm going to be doing a series called Ghostbusters Before Afterlife. Check it out this fall. Superbad, Easy A. I love this movie. And it just goes to show how good of an actress Emma Stone is. I've yet to see her in that new Cruella movie, but she's a really good actress, and this movie solidifies it, even in her younger days. I think she was nominated for a Golden Globe for this movie, and she earned it. Say Anything, the 20th Anniversary Edition. Better Off Dead, speaking of John Cusack. $2. Cash. Porky's. Revenge of the Nerds. This is one of my more rewatchable comedies, if you ask me. I met most of the cast in person, including Robert Carradine, Curtis Armstrong, Julia Montgomery, Ted McGinley, Donald Gibb. Some of you might not even know who some of these names are, but This movie had a profound impact on me. In fact, the show that was kind of inspired by it years on, King of the Nerds, which is one of my favorite reality shows of all time, had an enormous impact on me. So that's part of why I continue to rewatch this movie every now and then. I mean, there's some things that I will say that there's some things that make it not hold up today, and I will be discussing that in a review that I will be doing this August. It's for a series called Revenge of the Nerds, Nerds in Review. Check that out on Flickr.com, now will you? American Pie. This is all 4 movies. American Pie, American Pie 2, American Wedding, American Reunion. I like all of them. Actually, the first one's okay. I think the second one's better, weirdly enough. American Wedding's pretty good. Although, American Reunion sucked. I'm just going to be straight up with you. Blockers. This is a really good film. Like a newer style, more progressive sex comedy, if you want to put it that way. Rocky, Race. Let's put that over here. Move on. Blade Runner, the final cut, 4K. It also comes with other versions of the film, but those versions are available on Blu-ray. Blade Runner 2049, which is arguably better than the original for some reason. It's hard to tell which one's better, if you ask me. Ex Machina, starring, oh man, why am I forgetting her name? Alicia Vikander. That's who it is. I didn't even look. Also directed by Alex Garland, who also directed the next movie we're going to be talking about, Annihilation. This, weirdly enough, was a Best Buy exclusive. The 4K edition of this movie was a Best Buy exclusive. I have no idea why. It was a nice slipcover. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show you this. Signed by Benedict Wong himself, who was in this movie. Another one of my signed movies. I can't wait to get more signed because cons are probably going to open back up soon. I hope to go to TrevorCon this year, but I think I have a family event. We'll see what happens. I have to plan my schedule out. Moving on, we have First Man. This was awesome in the IMAX theater. They have a certain scene in this movie shot with IMAX cameras, and that was marvelous to see. It was one of the most well-shot movies I've seen in recent years. Pacific Rim on 4K. Ender's Game. Transformers Dark of the Moon. Good movie if you ask me. Although I think the first Transformers may just be a little bit better. Bumblebee. I've yet to see this one. Alita Battle Angel. This comes with a lot of different versions of the film. It comes with a 3D version. It comes with a 4K version. Blu-ray and a digital code. A lot of versions. Life. Got this using the FYE at one point. Although it has a Walmart sticker on it. Look at that. Up next is Arrival. This movie got me into Denis Villeneuve. I really cannot wait for his Dune movie. I'm so curious to see what he does with it. I want to read the book too at some point. I have it sitting on the shelf over there. Galaxy Quest. I've yet to see this movie, but one of my someone from, I guess, extended family told me that they saw this in the theater, and I think there was like 1 or 2 other movies that they saw, and this was one of the few where everybody at the end stood up and clapped once it was over because it was that good. Jupiter Ascending. I don't know why I bought this movie. I got this at a going out of business sale. Spin Street in Uncasville, Connecticut. The Martian, which includes the extended edition on 4K. Apollo 13. Gravity. That was awesome in the IMAX, by the way. Love, Simon. It, the Chapter 1, if you want to put it that way. By the way, this is a special cover. It got a Best Buy, and there's the standard poster on it, on the inside. Fatal Attraction, The Babadook, Flatliners, the original, 7, Con Air, Homefront, and End of Watch. This is a Walmart. I think, yeah, it's only at Walmart, it says. Walmart exclusive. I barely get movies from Walmart, but that was one of them. Salt, Wanted, speaking of Angelina Jolie action films. Sully. Got this at FYE. Moving on to the next pile, we have Cowboys versus Aliens. Fargo. Napoleon Dynamite. Braveheart. This is the Sapphire series. And speaking of the Sapphire series, we have Gladiator. Speaking of rhyming movies, The Aviator. This is the Riddick collection. This is the Pitch Black movie, Chronicles of Riddick and Riddick. King Arthur and the Legend of the Sword. I am not a fan of Guy Ritchie as a director, I will admit. I mean, I don't mind him. I just saw Wrath of Man, which was a good movie, but it's weird, because I like directors that have a unique sense of style, and he is one of them. But his sense of style, I just never caught on with it. It's never caught on with me. For some reason, I never was that into Guy Ritchie. I tried watching Snatch. I forgot about it by now. I tried watching The Gentleman. Ugh. I don't know. I gotta watch some of his other movies. Maybe that'll change my mind. The Accountant, directed by Gavin O'Connor. Really good movie. Ben Affleck playing a guy with autism. The November Man. The Green Mile and Forrest Gump. Blu-ray double feature. Action double feature. This has Bloodsport and Time Cop. Interesting combo. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Triple X, and this comes with a Blockbuster sticker. Look at that. I don't know if this is originally a rental, but I did buy this on Amazon, and so I own it. A little small pile right here, Slumdog Millionaire. I love this movie, and I will admit, part of it's because I'm a game show fan, but this is a well done film. I watched this as part of a project in 2019. Well, I watched it before that, but I watched it again for a project in 2019. Seeing the main character's reflections and how it played out in the film, that was mesmerizing as heck, to say the least. Gods of Egypt. Bad movie. Bad movie. Shawshank Redemption. I believe this is an European version. I watched the movie, but I've yet to watch it on Blu-ray. Spy. Alright, moving on. We have 5 more piles to go. And yeah, if you think this is taking a long time, allow me to introduce you to Taken! The original. The only good one, by the way. One of my favorite things about Taken is Seth MacFarlane's Kermit the Frog impression, where he does Taken. There's this video of him on Graham Norton, and he just blurts out lines from Taken as Kermit the Frog. He says, "And anybody, but what I do have is a very particular set of skills." It's just, I can't do it justice. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt were there promoting Edge of Tomorrow at the same time, and you should see Tom Cruise's reaction. He bursts out laughing. It's probably the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I don't have any money.
Taken 3. Oh, I don't know, wait. Did I show Taken 2 yet? Taken 2. Taken 3. There we go. We got the trilogy. Underworld. This is also the unrated edition. Underworld Evolution. Underworld Rise of the Lycans. Yeah, the Underworld movies just got progressively worse. Underworld Awakening. Underworld Blood Wars. I'm debating on getting rid of at least one of these. Ride Along 2. Speaking of which, we also have Ride Along 1. How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. Probably my favorite How to Train Your Dragon movie, which I'm surprised by because Well, I think it's most people's least favorite, but I saw this in the theater, and it was one of the few movies in the theater that I saw it and I shed tears. I think the only other case where this happened was another animated movie that came out last year, and that was Over the Moon, which is available on Netflix. It's incredible. How to Train Your Dragon 3 was just incredible. I watched it a few more times at home. Speaking of which, How to Train Your Dragon 1 on Blu-ray, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, Divergent, Insurgent, which I'd argue is a tad better than the original, The Hunger Games, which I don't know why I still have it, because I don't watch it, and I've never watched it since I got it, Hunger Games Catching Fire. I think this is better than the original Hunger Games, if you ask me. Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. I have a strategy when it comes to buying these films. I often go to FYE to buy movies, and I know they have that buy two used, get one for $1 deal. I don't want to have to pay too much for two parts, so if I can get Mockingjay Part 2 for $1, I'm just going to buy it. I don't care what anybody says. Is that on Tubi or something? I think it might be there for free. Who knows? Kong Skull Island. Speaking of Kong, King Kong, the Ultimate Edition. I think this one, yeah, that's what it said. Ghost in the Shell live action, starring Scarlett Johansson. Speaking of Ghost in the Shell, this is the animated version of Ghost in the Shell. Weird Science, which is one of my favorite John Hughes movies. The Breakfast Club, honestly, is a little overrated. Not my favorite John Hughes movie, but it's still watchable. The Great Outdoors, I get to watch this one. Edward Scissorhands. Triple feature, Beetlejuice, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and Corpse Bride. So it's all Tim Burton films. 4 film favorites, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. I've seen 2 of these. I've seen Batman and Batman and Robin. For some reason, I've yet to watch the other ones. Joker, Sucker Punch. Also includes the extended cut. 300. 300 Rise of an Empire. Not as good as the original 300, if you ask me. The Maze Runner. It's probably my favorite franchise of all the young adult novel adaptations that we've gotten in film. Maze Runner The Scorch Trials. Probably the worst of the Maze Runner films. I just got bored watching this movie, to say the least. I don't have the last one, The Death Cure, although I did really like that movie. I liked it. Dirty Dancing. 20th Anniversary Edition. Roadhouse. Point Break, the original. I watch this once every summer, although I skipped it last summer for some reason. I don't know why. Then again, I skipped a lot of things last year, and now it's just one of them. But one thing I'm glad I skipped was watching this piece of crap again. Point Break, the remake. Wow, that's bad. Okay, moving on. I can't talk about that anymore. Let's move on to In Time, starring Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried. Premium Rush. I really like this movie. It's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt on a bike. I also really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's got a pretty cool Facebook page where he gets a lot of people to interact with, I guess, his hit record thing. I've yet to play around with it much, but I do want to check that out at some point. By the way, speaking of checking these out, if you're not checked out Premium Rush, I really recommend it. It's only... How long is it? 91 minutes. It's an hour and a half. So if you want a fairly short movie to watch, please check this out. It's worth your time. Dinner for Schmucks. I think I had this on once in the background. I barely remember it. SWAT. RBG, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg documentary. Rest in peace. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Chasing Mavericks. Seabiscuit. Colossal. This was probably my favorite movie of 2017, even though some would say it came out in 2016. Because it takes the typical monster destroying a city concept and just goes bonkers with it. It's incredible. because they also not only do they have that, they have that an allegory on alcoholism, and at the same time, the monster fights a giant robot. Well, kinda. I don't want to say much about the movie, but you have to see it to believe it. That's all I'm gonna say. It's incredible. Speaking of incredible movies, Yellow Rose. Wow, this movie's so good. I put this up there with some of the greatest music movies of all time, including Whiplash and what are some other ones? Ray. Yeah, Ray. Whiplash and Ray. Those are two of my favorite music films of all time. And Yellow Rose has just recently joined the list. This came out last year in the theaters, although it premiered at some film festivals before then. Emo Noblezada is just a treasure. I had the pleasure of talking to her virtually this year over Zoom with a few other people. She's a delight. I love her. And she's also really good in this movie. There's some good original songs, too, with Dale Watson. If you've not seen Yellow Rose, give it a shot at some point. I don't know if it's free anywhere, but if you can find it, watch it. It's like Premium Rush. The Imitation Game, starring Benedict Cumberbatch. Battle with Sexes. Once again, more proof that Emma Stone is fire. Also, Steve Carell's really good in here, too. 127 Hours, starring James Franco. Black Hawk Down. Going back to Ridley Scott stuff. Body of Lies. The Express. Snatch, going back to Guy Ritchie stuff. The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock. Triple feature, Trading Places, Norbit, and 48 Hours. Now You See Me, and Now You Don't. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Michael Caine and Steve Martin. Escape Plan. Avatar, this is the 3D Blu-ray DVD edition. Life of Pi on 4K. Mortal Engines. The Legend of Hercules. I did not see this when it came out. And I hate myself for actually giving it at some point. It was just so bad. I've seen the reviews and I was just curious. And yeah, they were right. It was just one of the worst things that's ever happened to humanity. Baywatch. The Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson version, which also, like The Legend of Hercules, not that great. Not that great at all. The House with Amy Poehler and Will Ferrell. The Hangover Part 3. The Hangover Part 2. Steelbook, by the way. The Hangover Triple Feature Austin Powers Edition. This is 1, 2, and 3. Gone with the Wind. A movie that's been fairly controversial recently. In fact, I think HBO Max, I don't know if it's still on there, but I think they put a warning for, like, you know that typical Warner Brothers warning where they say, oh, the things that happen in this movie are a product of their time. Casablanca. And Gold, starring Matthew McConaughey. 3 more piles. Let's go. Let's see how we can get through this. Don't breathe. Yeah, that's going to be hard. Okay. Two Guns, Kung Fu Panda, my favorite DreamWorks movie of all time. Kung Fu Panda 2, The Penguins of Madagascar. I have seen the other Madagascar movies, but I don't have them on Blu-ray. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Well done animated Spider-Man movie. My favorite other than Spider-Man 2 when it comes to the Spider-Man stuff. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, probably my least favorite Spider-Man movie to date. The Amazing Spider-Man, this Blu-ray is special because it was the first one I ever picked up for $35, but whatever. It's sentimental. American Hustle. I wish I liked that a little more. Maybe I'll have to watch it again. We'll see what happens. American Assassin. I don't remember much about this movie. I just remember it's somewhat uneventful, kind of boring. Everest. Pretty good movie. All of the characters, I don't really remember them that much. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Godzilla. This is the Criterion edition from 1954. Time Bandits, another Criterion. Moving on to the DCEU collection, we have the most recent pickup that I've done. Well, not the most recent DCEU movie, but the most recent pickup I did, Birds of Prey. I've not picked up Wonder Woman 84 because I've been very hesitant. It's easily the worst DCEU movie I've seen. I was bored watching that. And I saw that in IMAX, for crying out loud, which was basically the intention for the movie. It was shot in that format. For Pete's sake, it was so boring. It made my top 10 worst of the year last year. But, on a better note, Shazam! Just say the word. Best Buy Steelbook, by the way. Aquaman. I like this cartoon cover. It's really nice. Justice League, the non-Snyder Cut edition. By the way, if you have not seen the Snyder Cut, I highly recommend it. More than the original, I would say. Wonder Woman. Oddly enough, Wonder Woman 1984 is my least favorite DCEU film. This one is my favorite. Kind of ironic. The Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad that's coming out this year, but Suicide Squad that came out in 2016. This also includes the extended cut. If it were not for Wonder Woman 84, that would be my least favorite DCEU film. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. It's a film that was alright when I first saw it, but it gets better with each rewatch. And I gotta say, I think I said this before. Who won this movie? If you ask me, it's not Batman. It's not Superman, who's covered by the Best Buy sticker. Although you can clearly see his face here. It's Wonder Woman. For good reason. She was awesome in this movie. Man of Steel, the birth child of the DCEU, 12 Years a Slave, Saving Private Ryan, 12 Strong, Jarhead, Gods and Generals, Marrowbone, Grudge Match, The Fighter, Snitch with The Rock, Seven Psychopaths, Hotel Artemis. I've seen this once. It's alright. Nothing really too great. I remember Dave Bautista's in it. Okay, last two piles. Let's move on to this one over here. Alright, let's start from the top. I just reorganized these movies just for safekeeping. Jason Bourne, The Bourne Identity. This is not exactly in the right order. It slipped when I was organizing them earlier. The Bourne Supremacy, Allied. It's moving on to my Margaret Zemeckis stuff. Flight. Castaway. Predator. Predator 2. Alien. This includes Alien 1, 2, 3, and 4. AVP, Alien vs. Predator. AVP Requiem. Prometheus. Alien Covenant, aka Alien 5. Zero Dark 30. This is a really well done film, and it goes to show how great of an actress Jessica Chastain is. She's one of my favorite actresses, along with Emma Stone, Elizabeth Banks working today. She's up there. She's wonderful. Great performer. The Hurt Locker, Air Force One. Get off my plane. The Fugitive, starring Harrison Ford as well. Ted 2. What? You never heard of Samuel L. Jackson? He's in every movie ever. He's the black guy. Ted. The hotel fight in this movie. Wow, I love it. The best part about it is that there's no music, so you just get to hear just a bunch of random punching from Wahlberg and the bear. It's just great. It's fantastic. Speaking of Seth MacFarlane, A Million Ways to Die in the West. You can see me laughing. I'm thinking about the ice scene in this movie that I won't spoil. Oh my god. If you've not seen A Million Ways to Die in the West, it's not Seth MacFarlane's best work, but oh my god, the ice scene. That is so good. At least per my opinion. If you ask me. Moving on to my Boston movie collection. Spotlight. Gone Baby Gone. The Town. The Departed, Good Will Hunting, Boondock Saints. Moving on. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. I've also seen the original Jumanji with Robin Williams. I do not have it, unfortunately. But I think it is better than Welcome to the Jungle, which was a surprisingly good movie. Even though the first 10 minutes made it seem like it was not going to be good at all. Goodfellas. Pretty good movie, if you ask me. I recommend it. Ouija. I think I've seen the first one. Not that great. Like, at all. I heard the second one's much better, but I've yet to get around to it. Annapolis, starring James Franco and Tyrese Gibson. The Watch. I just rewatched this. Well, I say by rewatch, I mean tuned into the second half of this movie when it was on HBO. I think the product placement in it is terrible. Other than that, it's a pretty good movie. Also has Richard Ayoade in it. Argo, directed by Ben Affleck. Looper, directed by Rian Johnson. Much better than this Star Wars movie, if you ask me. Need for Speed, based on the popular video game franchise of the same name. Legends Blu-ray 2-pack, which has Chaos and The Bank Job, both starring Jason Statham. Crank and Crank 2. I just watched Crank 1. That's a pretty good concept for a movie. The guy who he basically cannot stop. Otherwise, I guess he dies, essentially. And at the same time, he's got a drug in him, and that could potentially kill him as well. He's basically just a rough day for him. Hugo, the Lego Batman movie. Incredible movie, by the way. I did not watch it on Blu-ray yet, surprisingly, although I did catch it on TBS and TNT a couple times. Lego Movie 2, the second part. The Lego Movie, one of the biggest surprises that has ever happened to humanity in movie history. Because, wow, that movie, when first announced, it looked like it was gonna be total crap, but wow. It made my top 10 movies of the decade by the end of it. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Wow. Lucy, starring ScarJo. It's not that great. Fifth Element, speaking of Luc Besson, this is a really good movie. I think this movie gets a little absurd by the end, but the ending is also pretty cool at the same time. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, the 4K edition. It kind of reminds me of Fifth Element, especially considering it's from the same director. Leon, the Professional. And now, let's move that over here. The last pile. Da, 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 da. This is going very well so far. I haven't had to switch cameras yet. The Mission Impossible collection. This includes all 4 movies. Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible 2. Mission Impossible 3. And Mission Impossible 4. Ghost Protocol. If you had to ask me which one was my favorite in this collection, I'd say it's the first one. That's just me. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I think this is better than 1 through 4, although it's not as good as the most recent one, Mission Impossible Fallout. Although the opening scene with Tom Cruise hanging on the side of a plane it's just beautiful. I love it. The music's great for it too. Who did the music for this? Was it not Lauren Balfe, is it? That was the most recent one. Joe Kramer. That's who did it. The Equalizer, starring Denzel Washington. Speaking of which, Equalizer 2. The Transporter. I was not a fan of this movie. I have no idea why. I thought I was really going to like it. I don't know. It's just Jason Statham's character. He gave me a bad vibe in this movie. Although he did kind of redeem himself in the sequel, because I really like Terminator 2. Oh, not Terminator 2. A completely different movie. Transporter 2. This is a really good film, if you ask me. I recommend it. Transporter 3. I tried watching this a couple times, but I think the first time I fell asleep, the second time I fell asleep intentionally. I need to sit down and pay attention to this movie. Actually, not the first time. I don't think I did fall asleep. I think it just had its background noise, mostly. I need to watch it at some point and just give it my full attention. Transporter Refueled. That's the most recent Transporter movie. It's a social network with a really dark cover. You don't get to 500 million friends without making a few enemies. That's which side is it on? This is a really cool cover. Look at this. Oh, they do have the discs in there. You can see that. I really like that. One of the coolest covers I've ever seen. Moving on to my Jurassic Park collection. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Jurassic World in 3D. Jurassic Park 3. Fun story, I watched this movie and my TV broke in the process. I had to get a new one. I've yet to finish it. The Lost World Jurassic Park. Not as good as the original, which I have right here. The 3D version of Jurassic Park. One of the better Spielberg movies. Up there with Jaws for me. Non-Stop. Run All Night. The Commuter. I used to have Cold Pursuit, but I sold it. 2-film collection, Gremlins and Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Moving on to my Lord of the Rings collection, I'm not counting that collector's edition that I showed you earlier. The Hobbit in 3D, The Unexpected Journey. Probably the worst Hobbit film, but it's still watchable. That's the thing about Lord of the Rings. Even the bad films are still watchable. Speaking of which, I have the extended edition of The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. Hobbit, Destination of Smaug. Probably my favorite of the Hobbit films, by far. Here's the extended edition of that film as well. The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. And speaking of that, I have the extended edition for that one too. I like the covers. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. These are the standard editions, by the way. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Moving on to my Christopher Nolan collection. We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. I think I got just about everything. Following. This was his first film. The only one I have not seen. I've seen all the other ones, though. Tenet. This was his most recent film. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's marvelous to look at. It's very well crafted. Memento, Insomnia. It's probably his worst film, but I still give it a 7 out of 10. Christopher Nolan's like Pixar. It's hard to screw up a film from him. The Prestige, this is the 4K edition for it. Inception. I own 2 copies of this because it's that good. It's one of Nolan's more rewatchable films. Speaking of which, I have the Blu-ray copy right here. I'm probably going to give this to my dad or something because he likes this movie too. Now, my favorite Christopher Nolan film, Interstellar. And this comes with a piece of IMAX film. I'm not going to get it out, and I can't even tell what frame this is. I'm trying to get it at an angle that won't be reflected by anything. I cannot tell what. I've had this for 5 years. No, actually 6 years. I've had this for 6 years. I still can't tell what scene this is from. And I say this as someone who considers this to be it's arguably my favorite movie of all time, and I can't even tell what scene that's from. That's just weird. Speaking of which, I own 2 copies of this as well. This is the 4K edition. I got this for $35 at Spin Street. Dunkirk. This was probably, in terms of sound, one of Christopher Nolan's better productions. It's also one of his more interesting ones, too, because it goes to show that not every movie needs characters, like fully grown characters from start to finish, per se. The Muppets, Disney's Muppets, I should say. This is from 2011. It was a pretty good film. Impractical Jokers in the Movie. Fun fact, I saw this in the theater, and Joe from the show showed up and said hi to all of us. I saw this at Boston Common, and he just showed up.
You get called in sick from work, be honest. Yeah, there you go, I love you.
Which I knew that was going to happen, but it was pretty cool. I have the whole thing on video. Last one I have here is Safe. starring Jason Statham. Although the collection is not done yet. I got one more thing. Hang on just one sec, guys. Last but not least, the last Blu-ray I will show you in this collection video, The Jesus Rolls. This film, unfortunately, is not anywhere near as good as The Big Lebowski. And to show and to symbolize that, this Blu-ray case is partially damaged. And it came this way, unfortunately. There was a shipping error. Because it came with somebody else's order. And I guess the two collided. Look at that, the bond's damaged too. The Big Lebowski, to me, is an 8 out of 10 on the scale of 1 to 10. This is, The Jesus Rolls is like a 3. This is a spin-off featuring John Turturro's character. It also has Bobby Cannavale, Audrey Tautou, Christopher Walken, John Hamm, Pete Davidson, and Susan Sarandon. Has a lot of stars, but unfortunately, I cannot say for the same for the movie itself, which I give it a 3 out of 10. Anyways, that's it for the collection. So, once again, I want to thank you all for tuning into this, I guess, somewhat annual Blu-ray collection video. I don't usually do this as an annual... I've not really intended on doing this as an annual thing. I'm just doing this because on Scene Before, I decided to do this for every other 100th post. And now that I reached the 500th, I'm going to be sharing my latest edition of this. Who knows? Maybe next year I'll do it in May. Maybe I'll do it in July. Maybe I'll do it in June again. We'll see. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. Let's get a look at the collection from here. Sorry if it's a mess. Either way, there you have it. So I'm going to ask you right now, which of these movies do you like the most? Do you have any interesting movies in your collection? I'd like to know. Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Be sure to subscribe to Jack Dries. I very much appreciate your support. If you want to go follow Scene Before, click the link in the description below. And also check out the official Facebook page, which I will also post in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Jack Dries. Remember, if you are following Scene Before is your click to the flicks. And for my elevator people, I will have more elevators for you coming soon. So, that will be it. Another Blu-ray collection done. With no tech issues. Although a lot of speaking issues. Yay! Bye-bye, everyone.